Joe Walsh, thank you so much for being here.
Royce, awesome to be with you, brother.
I don't even want to waste time. Let's get right into it. Look, you are the opposite of opinionated, so I'm not even going to hold back. What is the current biggest internal threat that this country is facing?
That's a great fucking question. That's really concise. And it's at one level, it's fucking difficult to answer because there are so many. Look, here's the biggest threat. And I say this as a former member of Congress. I was on some radio interview a day or so ago, and the guy asked me, what do you mean, Joe, we're in a constitutional crisis? Here's what I meant. We have two branches of government right now. And maybe in a few months, we'll have one. My former employer, Congress, is no longer an independent branch of government. Now, that should scare the fuck out of everybody. That is the antithesis of what our founders wanted, but that's where we are right now. Trump's doing all of his shit that he said he was going to do. Elon Musk is doing everything he said he was going to do. The only reason they can do it is because we do not have an independent legislative branch. This is a constitutional crisis like never before.
So just to boil that down, would you say Elon Musk is the biggest internal threat we have right now?
Well, yes and no. Trump is still the biggest threat because Donald Trump's the first authoritarian this country's ever elected. Donald Trump is in essence a king. So that's everything. And as bad and as dishonest and as dangerous and as unconstitutional right now as Elon Musk is, he's all working at the behest of Trump, who is an American president utterly unrestrained by the Constitution and the rule of law. But again, to go back to what I said earlier, if we had a Congress, an independent legislative branch right now, Elon Musk's ass would have been hauled in front of Congress a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and he would have been forced to answer questions under oath. What the fuck are you doing? That was our job. Provide oversight. Be that check on that executive. We don't have that.
No, we don't even have leadership. It's amazing what a clown show Congress has become. Now, before I get into the Elon Musk of it all, let me ask the wider question. What do you think the current largest external threat to our nation is?
Russia, China, every enemy of America outside of our borders, every dictatorial regime out there, because they are absolutely loving what Trump is doing. Donald Trump is out to destroy the FBI, to destroy the CIA, to destroy the Justice Department. He and Musk have been gutting USAID, our vital soft power around the world. Who loves this? Donald Trump is weakening America and making us less safe and us less secure. So the greatest external threat is all of our enemies are going to feast on this.
Well, and to that point, if our greatest external threats are Russia and China, Elon Musk is doing business with both of them and has both leaders on speed dial. So how do you fight this? Because we don't have leaders. We've got guys like you that are willing to be loud, and I thank you for running for office. I mean, it's an honor to speak to you just as somebody that's actually gone up there and put their moxie on the line, and you get a lot of hate for what you've done. But how are we actually going to create an opposition party? And I'm not talking about Trump as a whole, because Trump is just the beginning of the issue. But where does the opposition come so that we can actually focus on working class issues?
So I get a lot of hate, and I get threats every single day, and the threats aren't deserved, but some of the hate's deserved because you know my political history. I helped create this Republican Party. I helped to radicalize Republican voters. I woke up 6 years ago, and now I'm dedicating my life, as long as I'm alive, to trying to make amends for that. But here we sit. We have two American political parties. One of our political parties is an authoritarian embracing cult. I mean this, like my former colleagues in Congress, we all took an oath to defend that Constitution. That's not the oath these guys took. Their undying fealty is to Trump, not the Constitution. Probably like you, I get 1,000 people a day asking me, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? By the way, Royce, I'm not a Democrat yet. What the fuck? You know, the Democrats just suck.
I've never been a Democrat because they have no spine.
Yeah, completely. I campaigned every day for 3 months out in battleground states for Kamala Harris. And what I would hear every day from voters was, Joe, I know Trump's a bad guy. I know he's an asshole. But these Democrats are snobs and they look down on me. I would hear that from regular people.
Yeah.
The Democrats did that. The Democrats have become so out of touch with regular people that America actually chose the bad, horrible guy over that. So the Democrats have real problems right now. They're in essence not acting like an opposition party. They're not fighting. David Axelrod, again, smarter political consultant than I am, smart guy. I'm not smart. David Axelrod advised Democrats yesterday to throw the towel in on this whole USAID thing. Americans don't like foreign aid, blah, blah, blah. Don't fight on this one. What? Fuck? What Trump is doing is unlawful. It's unconstitutional, gutting USAID. And we've got Democrats out there saying don't fight on it. You got to fight Trump everywhere on everything. You don't throw in the towel on USAID or the rule of law.
It's almost impossible to do.
No, Democrats, maybe you can answer this. I'm not surprised by what Trump has done in 3 weeks. I knew this was coming, but Democrats seem to have been caught off guard. It's crazy.
Well, I don't know how they've been caught off guard when they knew all along what they were signing up for. Look, I was raised in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. I've been an independent my entire life. I know what those folks want and expect. And the thing that Trump speaks to is that he talks to them like a normal guy, and that forgives everything. But the chaos that we're going through right now, Joe, we can't even have a linear conversation because there's too much to address. It's almost impossible to discuss it all, which is obviously Bannon's playbook. And I just got to ask again, how do we counter this? Beyond just yelling in our echo chambers, beyond the sound bites, how do we actually get out there? Because the one thing that Trump can't stand is to be publicly embarrassed. So how do we just embarrass this man into submission?
Well, I'll give you a little note of hope. In the latest polls that I've seen on Elon Musk, his support right now is tanking. His support is dropping even among Republicans. So Republicans are beginning to think, I don't like what he's doing. America at large, by all the polling data, doesn't like what he's doing. So as hopeless and helpless as we feel, all of us in all of our little circles have been out there putting truth out there, screaming about the shit that Trump and Musk are doing, calling them out, and it's beginning to have an impact. Democrats are finally in Congress beginning to fight back and push back, and so it's making a difference. What can we do? Here's the big, broad, unsatisfactory answer. In the next 2 years, Trump's going to do serious damage to this country. We have to do everything we can do to make sure the Democrats take back the House in 26.
I'm so tired of hearing that. Because it's just, I know, but that's all we do is run campaign. Like all we do is go from election to election in this country.
Well, no. Royce, you make a great point. I'm just saying that's our first political target. That has to happen because they won't take back the Senate. So right now, Trump controls all of Congress. So just politically speaking, and coming from someone who had to run every 2 years, that's got to be part of our strategy now. The other thing that is being done, Royce, is 90% of what Trump and Musk are doing is unlawful and unconstitutional. Those suits are being filed every hour.
Right.
Everything Trump and Musk is doing is being taken to court. That's super duper important. Then the other thing we can do, again, what can we do as people? Again, if we've got 500 people in our circle, inform them every day. Give them a little bit of truth every day. Call out what Musk and Trump are doing just a little bit every day. I use every fucking one of my platforms I have to do that. If we all just do that at our own level, we can begin to move the needle.
We need more organization. So many things come to mind, so I'm going to try to get to them all here. And I have my notes, and I haven't even barely touched them.
Fuck you, Royce.
Are you in constant contact with anybody in Congress right now that is out there or that is sitting quietly out there?
So before the November election, I used to be in contact with many more of my former colleagues. Once Trump won in November, his rap on the party, he consumed everybody. So I hear from just a very few, very, very, very privately. And look, there are a lot of Republicans in Congress who do not like what he's doing. His batshit crazy idea 2 days ago, let's take over and own Gaza. There isn't a Republican in Congress who likes that idea. None of them will say it publicly.
But it's not real talk. It's not real talk. It's like what he did during The Apprentice. He would just change the script and the producers would have to run around and fix it after the fact. The Gaza, I don't even want to discuss the Gaza thing because it's not real and it distracts. And that's the problem. So to your point, though, about all of the responses, the court cases and all the legal responses, they never get the headlines. It's only the bullshit that gets the headlines.
No, you're right. Look, I personally think Trump's an idiot. But
I'm shocked to hear you say that.
If he has any strategy, it's always been throw 1,000 pieces of dog shit against the wall every day.
Right.
And just wear them out and confuse them. You make a good point. We all need to constantly sift through the bullshit and focus on the stuff that matters. And what matters to me a hell of a lot more than this idiotic Gaza thing is the fact that right now we have 100,000 USAID servants all over the world that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have just shut down. And that's unlawful. So anything to me that violates the rule of law, that's always got to be on the front page.
Now, that I don't know anything about USAID, so I can't even pretend to. But is the shutdown imminent? How does it work? And then in terms of the courts reversing it, I mean, is there precedent for dealing with anything like this?
No. I say this as a former member of Congress. He cannot shut down. A president cannot shut down a federal agency that by law was created by Congress. USAID is that. JFK started it in 1961 via executive order as a project of the State Department. But then in 1998, Congress passed a law that said this thing is an independent agency. So Trump and Musk can't shut it down by law. Trump's talking about shutting down the Department of Education. They know he can't do it. So, Royce, what are they doing? They're basically crippling these agencies. They're locking the buildings, locking the offices, taking down the social media, firing people, furloughing people, telling people to stay home, freezing aid, which also is unconstitutional, Royce. Once Congress has appropriated money for an agency, a president cannot not spend that money. So they're trying to gut these agencies because they can't formally shut them down.
But what is the timetable to respond to this? Because if a guy like Elon Musk is in there now shutting off payments, literally just shutting off payments. Forget the due diligence of paperwork and process. If he's literally just thwarting the payment systems, then the law doesn't mean fuck all.
So at this point, the only formal bulwark against stopping Trump and Musk is the court system. And let us hope, Royce, because it's happened on a couple. Remember, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, Trump said we're freezing all federal assistance.
Yeah.
Within 3 days, the court said no, stop, put a pause on it. And then 3 days ago, the court ruled you can't do that. So let's hope that in each of these cases, the court system moves like fucking lightning.
It kind of reminds me, I was watching something Ezra Klein put out the other day talking about by reacting to the flooding of the zone, you give the man a false sense of power and you build up the image that he's doing things. But if you actually just let the courts do their job, give it a couple days.
Fuck that.
But that's what you just said. But that's what you're saying. You're saying like trust the process. But
No. I'm saying maybe that was Ezra Klein.
Yeah, it was, but it was more about like don't give him so much power by reacting to everything because most of it gets debunked.
Oh, that kind of maybe that's a little too intellectual for me. That just pisses me off. No, this is a two-step dance. The courts have to do their job, and publicly, we got to get into the streets, and every member of Congress, we all have to shout and scream about what he's doing, because what he's doing is un-American, unconstitutional, and unlawful. We don't shut our mouths about that because we're worried it might give him too much fucking power. No, we are an opposition party, and we try to beat the fucking hell out of him in the public square. Hell yes.
I agree with you, but I don't think we're doing enough of it in the public square, number one.
We are not.
And just so that I'm not fully misrepresenting what Ezra Klein was saying, I think he was saying by overreacting to everything like these EOs actually hold water, you make it look like the man has more power and is doing more than he's doing.
I think.
So slow down the panic response.
So let me pull back some of my Ezra Klein hate. And I don't hate Ezra, but let me pull back and find some common ground. Look, again, 1,000 pieces of dog shit against the wall every day.
Yeah.
Ignore the stupid shit he says, but go bananas after every illegal, unconstitutional thing he does. And if he puts out 5 unlawful executive orders tomorrow on a Friday, we should fucking scream about them. I don't care if he says America should, we're going to buy Greenland next week. I'll fucking ignore that shit. But what he does, when he goes after our Constitution, you go after it.
You know, the way he keeps talking about acquiring things, like that's how bad I am when I play Risk. Like I'm always over grabbing and I'm never fortifying, and like this, it's like a bad board game with this guy. But
it is, Royce, it is, and you're right. At one level, you're really right. Trump's an idiot, but the one constant about Trump is, from the beginning, from the womb, all he cares about is Trump.
Yeah.
And again, we're not going to talk about Gaza. Trump doesn't give a fuck about Israel.
No.
He doesn't care about the Palestinians. Donald Trump cares about, I want to build condos on that beach there, and I want to personally enrich myself and have Jared Kushner enrich himself. That's all. So at one level, you're right. But here's the scary thing about Trump. This is really scary. He believes he's untouchable. Like I push this notion, no kings in America, right? He believes he's a king. And always remember, he believes he can do whatever he wants, take whatever he wants. Americans forget this, Royce. Putin invades Ukraine 3.5 years ago? February of 22, right? 3 years ago.
3 years already.
Putin invades Ukraine. Remember what Trump said when he first heard that Putin invaded. Donald Trump said, and I quote, genius. What a genius move. Because in Trump's world, Trump loves autocrats and dictators. That's Putin taking something. Trump loves that. Trump wants to be that. So this is me taking something, and nobody can stop me. He's doing that at home. I can do whatever I want because I got fucking Congress in my back pocket. I'm going to start taking Greenland and Gaza. This is scary.
I think you tweeted something out that it would only take 3 Republicans to change the course of history. Do those 3 Republicans exist? Do you know behind closed doors that there's actually guys there that could do it or actually feel the way that you feel?
So that's a trick question. So I'm going to give you, jerk, a trick answer. No, the answer is no, because there are not 3 Republicans in the Senate or the House who will stand up publicly and say no, Trump. There are more than 3 Republicans in the House and the Senate who will privately go, fuck no. But they will not take the step to do it publicly, so it doesn't matter.
So the real trick is, why aren't we naming these people and shaming these people? Because the bottom line is this. When it comes to legislation and it comes to actually getting things done, we can disagree on how we get there. Most people want the same things, okay? And I think to that extent, most people do not want Elon Musk having his hands in our government, in our data. We all want efficiencies, okay? Everybody wants to see waste excised. But if you're telling me that there are guys that will do it, Trump is a lame duck president, essentially. So why don't these guys take their party back?
Back up the truck, my good friend. Beat me over the head if you disagree with me. The biggest failure that we've all had with Trump is a failure of imagination. We've never been able to imagine how low he'll go, how bad he'll be, how lawless he'll be. Like, gosh, Reese, 8-9 years ago, we never would have imagined that Trump or any American president would lose an election and not publicly concede. You serious? And then, like, we could never imagine that a president would lose and then commit crimes to try to overthrow an American election. We didn't imagine it. Use your imagination now. You called Trump a lame duck. Fuck that. I fully expect Trump to run for another term. I mean it.
Oh, I don't disagree with you, but
so he's not a lame duck.
On paper, he would be if Congress didn't give him the power. They could take it back if they actually had a backbone.
Right, but in a normal world with a normal president, Trump could not run again.
Right.
And so usually within that first year of that lame duck's term, forget about the president. It's all Congress, and we're already talking about the candidates for the next race. We ain't never been here before, Royce. Yeah. This guy has every single fucking Republican in the palm of his hand. He controls this party. I would not at all doubt that he's going to run again. He will give the impression that he's going to run again until the very last minute. So I don't see him as a lame duck at all.
And that's the throwing the shit against the wall mentality, because he doesn't care what the reality of it is. I'll say it, and if they're going to back me, let them back me. Like he just says what he wants to say, because he was in office one day and he made the comment about running again, and he looked over at Mike Johnson and said, "I'm not going to bring you into that."
I mean, maybe, Royce, it must be kind of cool to know you're an untouchable, to know that nobody's going to hold you accountable. I mean, Royce, and by the way, I stopped blaming Trump for this a while ago.
Yeah.
We've all enabled him.
Yeah, we got to blame ourselves. We really do.
We all did it. I mean, if you're Trump, can you blame him? Think about this, Royce. He literally tried to overthrow an American election, and he didn't pay a price for that. Oh, my fucking God. If I'm Trump, I can get away with anything now. He believes that.
I think the danger with Trump is not Trump. It's what Trump is paving the way for in the future. And I think back to growing up, again, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So almost every other weekend you go to AC, and Trump was a legend. Even though everybody knew he was a con man and a grifter and he didn't pay his bills, he was still a legend. And you think about how he has been ingrained in our culture and how the veneer that is the Trump brand has gotten him so far that you can't fault him for acting the way he does. I mean, yes, you can fault him, but to your point, you almost can't blame him because you look at him and you go, well, of course he's going to be this guy. He's always been this guy. You just gave him more rope than he's ever had. That's the only difference.
He's the product, Royce. Trump's the product, the ugly product of a broken country.
Yeah.
He's the product of a super divided country. And he is the product of a broken political system. Remember, full confession, I voted for him in 2016. I was on talk radio around the country. I was out there, boom, boom, boom. We need disruption. Our Royce, again, politically, you and I may differ on a lot of shit. I've been saying since well before Trump, back when I was in Congress, our political system sucks. The two parties suck. We need a third party, a fourth party, a fifth party. I was saying blow it up, burn it down, start over 12 years ago. So we needed disruption. I understood that. There are good disruptors and bad disruptors. He's a really bad disruptor, but he's made everything worse. But I get it. You get it why he got elected.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Everything you said is how I have felt ever since I was a kid. Okay, I've always wanted a disruptor. But with Trump, he had my vote at the top of the escalator. When he got to the bottom, he lost me because he started talking. Look, I was a college kid running around like an idiot for Ralph Nader. But now I got to ask you, do you think there's any value in a third party, or is the focus got to be on rebuilding the two parties?
So that's a great question, Royce. I've been yelling for a third party for about 5 or 6 years now. And I still feel that way, but based on this last election, like I was out there saying Trump's an existential threat to our democracy because I believed it. I really, really believe that. So instead of putting our efforts into some third party now, this guy's fucking burning our house down. And the only other game in town is this party over here called the Democratic Party. So we all got to fucking suck it up, prop them up, kick them in the ass, and help them defeat this guy who's burning the house down. That's where I am now. I'm all about a third party, a fourth party, a fifth party, but I worry the house is burning down right now.
And the Democrats don't want help. They're so stubborn. They're so stubborn. I mean, I don't know why they don't get that the core issue for the average American is just middle class, working class issues. It's a redundant core issue. People just want to be able to survive. They want to be able to get by without having to do 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills. They want good education for their kids. Everybody cares about the environment to the extent that it impacts their lives. But when you politicize it, global warming used to be a term in the textbooks when I was in the 3rd grade. Now it's a political term. But everybody wants the same things. And I don't know why, or I know why. We know the why. I don't know how we get back to having moderate conversation. As soon as I said the word election to my non-political Disney-based audience on TikTok, people started abandoning ship. They hear the word election and they immediately go into their corner yelling and screaming. And at that point, I don't even want to talk to you because you're acting like a child. But then you got to go, oh, you know what? We elected one of those. So how do we get out of this? How do we get out of this nightmare of normalizing the absurd?
Well, so 2 things, Royce. Politically, both parties have been overtaken by their bases. The Democratic Party was overtaken by their far left base, which emphasized these stupid issues, not stupid, but some of these issues that don't address what you just said, that regular people care about. I want to make money. I want my kids to be safe. Boom, boom, boom. The far left emphasized other issues. They overtook that dialogue overtook the Democratic Party. I'll make this point. MAGA, I was Tea Party, then it became MAGA. MAGA overtook the Republican Party. The difference, though, Royce, is MAGA now is the Republican Party. So it used to be fringe. Now it is the entire party. The good news for the Democrats is the far left is still the far left. So there are enough center-left and center Democrats and independents who could still help move that party more to the sensible middle and focus on issues that matter.
It's almost like you're looking at my notes because you're teeing me up perfectly. Who is this next leader? Who is this moderate leader that is going to bring those swing voters? And I really can't stand the idea of a swing voter, because every voter is a swing voter if you're actually talking about the issues. It's only emotion that really changes people's perspective these days. Everybody wants the same things. So who is this guy that's going to emerge? Is it you? Are you going to run again? Who's going to emerge and be our moderate leader?
Well, here's the problem, Royce. So, again, it's got to be a Democrat. Right now, it's got to be a Democrat because they're the only game in town. And it's got to be somebody who can get us to the radical, common sense, let's get shit done middle, right? But here's the other trick.
Radical.
It's got to be a fucking populist. It's got to be someone who's talking like you and me. That's Trump's beauty. Trump talks like a populist. He's a fucking bullshitter and a liar, but he talks like a populist.
Yeah.
Democrats don't have that. Now, 20 years ago, Bernie, again, Bernie's on the left, but Bernie's a populist. I don't see a Democrat out there who is a populist fighter who talks like regular people. I don't see one.
I didn't study poli-sci, but aren't Bernie and Trump like right here? Isn't that the U or the horseshoe? Isn't that the term?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, Bernie, go back to 2016, Royce. You're right. The two most popular figures in 2016 were Bernie and Trump. And neither one of them was a Republican or a Democrat. By the way, I think Bernie would have beaten Trump in 16 if he had been the nominee, because Hillary was the poster child for the establishment. But yeah, I completely agree. Bernie and Trump share a lot. Bernie's too old.
Would you run again? Because you didn't answer that. You dodged that eloquently.
Well, no. Well, absolutely.
Okay, good.
I'm a fucking populist fighter.
I know you are.
I'll help get us to the common sense middle. But Royce, I'll throw it right back at you, you big jerk. If Joe Walsh came out and announced tomorrow, I'm a Democrat, a former Tea Party guy, I'm going to be a good conservative Democrat, I don't think the Democratic Party would welcome someone like me.
No, they won't. That's the problem, because they're too stuck up.
Well, or I'm not where they are on issues they care about.
The Democrats are like a sorority. Okay, so you don't fit in that. You're not in that clique. So how do you break that clique?
Well, again, so one option for people like me who are in this no man's land, we're not part of the Republican Party, we're not Democrats. What do? We could become Democrats and see if the party will accept us. We can wait and help start a third party down the road, or we hang out here as independents and go at both extremes and try to help the Democrats from an independent standpoint. But Royce, it's really hard to run for office as an independent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why Bernie was always running as a Dem, right?
Yes.
And you got to play the game to change the game. So I understand that. But yeah, I don't know where the awakening moment comes for the Dems. If it's not now, if we already haven't hit that moment where they just go, oh my gosh, we were wrong. The fact that they're still soul searching is absolutely frightening to me, because it is so obvious what people want. And they want to be spoken with, not down to.
They want a fucking Democrat who can sit at a fucking bar and have a shot of tequila with them and bitch and moan about life in their neighborhood. I mean, that's what I've done my whole life. That's what Trump is good about lying about. But I just don't see Democrats doing that. Royce, it's really weird. When I ran for Congress 12 years ago and got elected, back then, Republicans were the party of college-educated suburbanites. And even back then, most working-class people still kind of held on with the Dems. It's completely flipped now. Democrats are the party of the wealthy, the college-educated, and the suburbanites. Republicans are now like more non-college educated working class. Oh my God, Democrats, hello.
It's interesting. I'm thinking of, so I was a volunteer field organizer on Barack Obama's first campaign, and I was registering voters outside the DMV in Henderson. And I recall that when Sarah Palin was brought on as the VP, how many voters switched from registering Democrat to Republican because of Sarah Palin, because they related to her. And, you can call that identity politics. You can call that whatever you want. You could say, oh, well, women voted for a woman, whatever you want, however you want to call it. But the bottom line is she was relatable. She was a hockey mom. She was relatable. And I remember being shocked at how quickly people jumped. And I don't think Democrats get that. I don't think they get that. It's not a party issue.
Royce, they never saw that. And I was part of that. I was Tea Party then when Sarah came in. And when I looked at those tickets, McCain, Palin, Obama, Biden, Palin was the one I loved the most because, again, she was just real. She wasn't fancy schmancy. This was the old Sarah Palin before she went nutso. But you're right. And Democrats looked down on her. Royce, I campaigned a lot in Pennsylvania this last year. I heard that from so many working class Pennsylvanians that they feel like Democrats look down on them.
Yep. It is amazing to me how the basic ideas that people choose to vote on are lost by half of the leadership. Like, I mean, these guys really don't understand that it's that basic. Just stop with the circular talk. Stop with all the teleprompters, and that's what people love about Trump. I'll say it again, is that even if you don't like what he said, he's just telling you what he's thinking. Yeah. So real quick, let me ask you this. Going back to pre-Sarah Palin, since you were Tea Party back then, what were your thoughts when McCain wanted to bring in Joe Lieberman?
I actually loved it because I've always been about disrupting the system. So I thought that was a really cool notion of a Republican prez combined with a Democratic VP nominee. I was actually trying to help push that idea. I loved it.
Yeah, and I feel like we would be in a very different place if that would have happened.
Yeah. There were other factors that really helped Obama, but yeah, look. Will the Democrats real quickly? They've got to real quickly, Royce, do a gut check and look at where they've been wrong, and they got to fire at Trump every day. They got to do both.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, it seems like we're a year into this already, and they're 2 weeks in, and I haven't seen one effective response from any Democrat, whether it's on social media, on the news. I do want. Yes, go ahead.
I agree with that, Royce, but let me quickly say this. What Democrats will always be able to count on is Trump and Musk are going to overreach. They're going to go too far. Because when they tried to freeze all federal assistance 2 weeks ago, the American people rose up and said, huh? And that's why Trump pulled back on it. That was a step too far. Trump will always go a step too far.
Right, but unfortunately, it'll always be too late. And to go back to that point about the headlines, he gets what Bannon wants. He floods the zone with shit. He gets all the headlines. His base says, look at everything he's doing. And then when reality kicks in days later, there's too many other absurd headlines that the reality checks never get any top coverage.
Yeah, but Royce, remember this. Unlike Trump and every one of his nominees who couldn't say the truth, Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. And you know why Trump lost? Because after 4 years of him in the White House, the American people said, fuck no. This is a chaotic shit show. That's why Trump lost in 20, because it was right there in our face every fucking day we're going through this. That's why Trump won in 24, because we were 4 years removed from his shit show. So Trump's going to give us another shit show. There's no doubt the American people are going to say, oh, my fucking God, I got to end this. But then if the Democrats don't have their act together, Trump, J.D. Vance, somebody could win again.
And then the problems just get deeper and deeper because all the weaknesses will have been tested at that point. So let's go wider. Let's go global. I do want to get back to Israel for a minute. And I'm a Jewish kid raised in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, certified Hebrew school teacher. Okay. I know propaganda when I see it. And that's a whole other conversation we'll get to when we get to China and TikTok. Do you think that this country has a blind allegiance to Israel?
God, no. Again, just my take, Royce. I fucking love Israel. I was the most pro-Israel member of Congress. I would defend that country like I would defend America. They are our closest ally on the planet we don't have time for a myriad of reasons. So I think that's always there. I think it's genuine and legitimate. Is there some blind devotion? I'm sure. Does AIPAC and some of their money have some influence on folks? Sure. But this is a pro-Israel country.
Well, and I get it. Israel's gorgeous. By the way, bar mitzvah there too. Okay. So I love Israel. I think Israel's lovely. But when it's the one thing that these idiots in Congress agree on unequivocally, you can understand why the average working class person raises an eyebrow.
Yeah, but I haven't seen those numbers, Royce. I'll bet you if you polled regular working class people, most working class people are pro-Israel. I mean, certainly not. And I know the media fucks a lot of this up. The data I've seen there, the pro-Palestinian contingent in America among all sectors really isn't there. By the way, Royce, I've always been, I'll go to war to defend Israel. I've always been, forget the two-state solution. But that's where I've been. But October 7th really changed things in how Americans view Israel based on that day.
But you don't see the corruption in Bibi Netanyahu?
Oh, yes, brother.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
In fact,
two conversations.
No, completely with you. And I used to love Bibi. Bibi's been there too long. He's corrupt.
Yeah.
2 weeks after October 7th. I publicly call for Bibi to resign. By the way, it happened on his watch. Take some responsibility. Hell yes, Bibi should be gone. I've always felt that way.
So again, I just think that when the one thing that Republicans and Democrats in Congress agree on, when the only thing that they agree on unequivocally is Israel, it makes a lot of people wonder, what is the real motivation for Israel? I mean, is it just having a foothold in the Middle East? Again, personally, Israel's gorgeous. I love it. But and nobody wants innocent civilians to die on either side of the table. So it's not a Palestinian conversation. And I don't think that really anybody in any leadership position in the region at that moment really sincerely wants peace, other than the commoners.
I'd say two responses, my friend. What was my first response? Israel's the good guy. And don't, before you throw something at me, in this Middle East saga since 47, 48, nobody's perfect. America's not perfect. I'm not saying that. But generally, Israel has been the good guy, made a lot of mistakes, screwed up, done a lot of bad things, but Israel is a good guy. Palestinians have been governed by clearly bad guys. So Americans understand that distinction. The second thing I'd say is, for a lot of reasons, the Republican Party has always been uber pro-Israel. The Democratic Party is not Israel divides the Democratic Party, I would say, right down the middle. And this is a big part of why I think Biden and Harris lost, because it cut right into the heart of their coalition.
Yeah. Well, it's a huge polarizing issue. And again, at the end of the day, if you just talk about it from the civilian perspective, nobody wants to see innocent people die at the hands of their government. I just don't buy anything that comes out of Bibi Netanyahu's mouth, and I don't think he really wants peace. I don't even think he wants a two-state solution.
Well, neither he or I does. But let me ask you this question, Royce.
Well, is he open about that, though?
I don't know that he's said it as not as openly as I've said it.
Well, clearly, but most people don't say things as openly as you do, which is why it's so great to have you on. But
I do agree, Royce. That's where he is at. I don't think he always wanted that. The last 30 years have convinced him of that. But I don't think, as much as you may not like Bibi, and I'm tired of Bibi, I would never put Bibi on the same level as the head of Hamas or even the head of the PLO. I mean, Bibi's not in that neighborhood. This is a whole different breed we're talking about when we talk about terrorist organizations. That's all.
No, I get it. But I mean, do you see, this is a tough one, and I know I'm going to.
No, you can ask anything, knucklehead.
No, I'm actually literally scrolling. So my ex listens to you all the time.
Oh my God.
And she's like, I can't stand his opinions on Israel, but I love the man. And I think Stephanie.
Stephanie, don't leave me.
But I think she was saying, like, don't you think that the IDF is a terrorist organization as well? I was looking for the exact.
No, and Stephanie, I love you, and we're going to have a tequila together one day.
Don't tell her that.
If you call the IDF a terrorist organization, then we might as well call the United States military a terrorist organization. There is a difference. Even if you got real problems with what IDF does, IDF is the military for a democratic country. That is way different than terrorist. The IDF does not, as a rule, target civilians. Hamas does. Reese. We'll close this one.
Royce, sorry.
Royce.
Sorry.
Stephanie, there would be peace tomorrow, Royce. I mean it. Golda Meir was right. Yep. There would be peace in the Middle East tomorrow if the Palestinian people did three things. If the Palestinian people just said, we want peace, and if the Palestinian people said, we will engage in no more terrorism, terrorists get lost, and if the Palestinian people just said, Israel, you got a right to exist. If the Palestinian side said those three things, there'd be peace tomorrow.
And they won't, because they don't really want it, and I don't disagree.
Which is why, agree, Royce, which is why a two-state solution is impossible, Stephanie, as long as one neighbor says, that neighbor right next to me doesn't have a right to exist. You can't have peace with a neighbor like that.
Well, but you're talking about a people, a culture that believes their land was stolen from them. So you do have to understand the perspective, but at the end of the day, at some point, people have to kind of meet in the middle. I mean, this goes back to what we're talking about in this country. We have to have moderate solutions. The extreme logic has to be checked at the door if we're actually going to get things done, not just in the country, but on the world stage.
Spot on, my friend. And I get it because I love this issue and I talk about this issue a lot. The Palestinian people feel aggrieved because of what the world did so many years ago. But when the world did that and said, Israel, you get this chunk, Palestinians, you get that chunk. And even if you're pissed off about that, the world, by the way, generally supported the idea of giving the Israelis a little bit of a homeland. But no matter, the minute that was done, the Israelis said, we accept it. The Palestinians went to war. And so the last 60, 70 some years have been about the Palestinians. I'm pissed off at what you did 70 years ago. So every 4 or 5 years, I'm going to go to war against you. Hello? Come on. Stephanie, I love you.
Let's switch countries. We'll move across the risk board here. We'll fortify. Do you think China is our biggest national security threat?
Yes and no. Yes, because they have the capability to do more damage across the board to America than any other country on the planet. But they've got big issues they got to deal with. And I actually weirdly think they're easier to deal with. It would be easier to develop a kind of tough, competitor, respectful relationship with them, as opposed to like Russia and a number of other countries where that can't be done. But as far as capability, they're our biggest threat.
Do you think that China is using TikTok as a carrot for a much larger negotiation?
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think China wants to lose TikTok. And look, you and I know what TikTok is. I don't want to ban TikTok. Facebook, Twitter, every other social media platform can get any information they want about me. I think we should keep TikTok, but we know what it is.
I'm going to tell you something that's probably I shouldn't be saying, because I have a relationship with TikTok, and I, up until the propaganda 2 weeks ago, was making a living on TikTok. But I can't stand propaganda, and I will take morals over money any day of the week. Call me a fool. The thing that I think is truly problematic about TikTok is not a privacy issue. I firmly believe that the structure of TikTok, the way that live streams monetize the audience, is Chinese economic warfare. And nobody pays attention to that component of the app. And it's not just against this country.
I don't even know how that's done.
It's all, so you can subscribe like you would on Twitch, but a major chunk of the app is gifting. And all gifting is sending money through digital animations to the streamers. And they use leaderboards and competition systems globally to create these competitions, and people just send money. And China is just raking it in. And I firmly believe, and I shouldn't be saying this because I'll probably finally destroy my relationship with TikTok, but I firmly believe the real danger is the economic warfare China is propagating on the globe using TikTok.
And I will respond with what most politicians never respond with. I know very, very little about that aspect of it. You've piqued my interest. I want to look into it.
I will gladly talk to you more about that offline and say things I won't say here at the moment.
Love that. Love that.
So, okay, so moving on from China, because, well, let me just ask you this then. Do you think TikTok will survive the ban, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think there are too many powerful interests here and around the world that want to keep it out there. I think what it looks like is some sort of partnership between a consortium of American buyers with some sort of relationship with the Chinese companies, something like that.
But they keep saying that it's not for sale. So that goes back to my question about it being a carrot, because if it's not for sale, then it's banned in less than 2 months.
Well, then it is completely for sale. And then one end game is they sell it to American ownership.
And if they do that, which they stated the only way they would do that is without the algorithm, it's no longer TikTok. So why would somebody buy it?
Agreed. So, again, if that is the route they go, there would be a major league negotiation based on that very issue.
Call your friends in Congress who don't have the balls to speak out publicly against the Trump administration and tell them that TikTok is a piece of economic warfare and it should be banned. Thank you.
You do me a favor, brother. Feed me when we're done with this.
Yes, sir.
Email me. Feed me some info.
I will. You only made me comfortable enough to say that to you, and I appreciate you. I really do. All right, let's wrap this up. We know that right now we are, we see that people are trying their best in Congress to respond to the Elon Musk of it all. Okay, we know that we have a huge information gap here in terms of how we actually respond to things and actually get through the noise. It's almost like we're operating on a delay. So again, we're looking for leaders. Who is going to be our Navalny? I mean, who is going to be our resistance leader? I know you're out there yelling and screaming, but I mean, like, I feel like there's something more that needs to be done in a way that we talk about disruption, but I think that we need somebody to be disruptive in a way we've never seen before, that is nonviolent, that is purely legal, but is aggressive.
I don't think we know what that looks like yet. I think this battle, this resistance needs to be fought on all fronts. I think the resistance will take more specific shape. Right now, people are reacting and people are trying to begin to come together. The resistance within the system is beginning to get their act together, i.e. Democrats. A big part of the resistance is the legal system. But yeah, Royce, we've got to stay informed, inform others, those we know, and see how this takes shape. But civil disobedience is a tool in our toolbox, and it could well get to the point where we practice that. I have no doubt, my friend, that Donald Trump is fucking itching to declare martial law and use the military on Americans on our streets.
I agree.
So civil disobedience by millions of us being thrown in jail may ultimately be where this goes.
We need an independent, organized, journalistic effort, and we do not have it in this country. We have a lot of loud, individualized mouthpieces. We do not have an organized effort, and this is a TV/social media presidency.
Oh, Royce, agree. And coming from the Never Trumper movement, the Never Trumper movement's not organized. It's every man, every woman for themselves. They want their own little fiefdoms to raise their own money and monetize what they're doing, and there's been no coming together. I worry because of this decentralized world where we all can have our own podcast and our own YouTube and try to make our own money. Everybody's going to be out there just trying to personally advance themselves. And I worry there may not be a sufficient organizing vehicle.
Yeah. And that's why I think you need to run for president with Mark Cuban as your VP, and we'll all rally behind you.
Well, I would love that, but I can't imagine Cuban would say, Walsh, I love you, but man, I'm at the bottom of our ticket. But
no, you're at the top. He's the VP.
No, I know that. I'm saying he may not accept being the VP.
He doesn't even listen. He's already doing enough good outside the system. Just get him far enough in the system to get the votes that he doesn't actually have to,
No, I agree with that, Royce. And by the way, we need Cuban and we need and there are so few of them, independent, wealthy businessmen and women who will put their money where their mouth is and invest in a resistance.
Who are still working class, relatable people. You haven't lost sight of that.
Oh, I completely agree. Completely agree.
All right. Well, my last comment to you, and I'll let you respond. It's more of a comment, less of a question. But I firmly believe that Elon Musk is in direct communication with Xi and with Putin, and I don't know how people don't see the danger in that.
So I agree that he is. That is not being said publicly. So that's a problem because Americans aren't aware of it. And it goes back to what you and I have been talking about. Right now, we're just so focused on the daily shit he's doing that we're not looking at the bigger picture. But we've got to bring attention to something like that.
So I'm going to ask you the question again for the purposes of clipping it out for social media. So here we go with the hook. Do you think Elon Musk is in constant communication with Putin and Xi?
I have no doubt that Elon Musk is in constant communication with Putin and Xi, and probably a few other really bad actors.
And there's nobody talking about it. Nobody talking about it. Where I understand the panic about everything else going on, but this is probably the biggest issue we have.
I think the problem is people are afraid to talk about it. Look, Royce, we can't downplay this. When I came out of the closet 6 years ago and said I publicly oppose Trump, life has been hell, and I put up with daily, weekly threats. to take on publicly an Elon Musk, and I do, this is a difficult thing to do, and people are afraid to do it. That's a problem.
I agree. Well, I thank you for your time. Let's do this again in the future. And on behalf of so many of us that feel like we aren't able to do enough with our voices, I want to thank you for everything you have done and everything you will continue to do. So thank you, Joe Walsh.
Brother Royce, thank you. Let me know when this is out, and I'll promote the shit out of it, my friend.